Okay, we're live.
All right, very good. Okay, it's Wednesday, July 20th, 2022 at approximately 7:03. So I call to order a regular meeting of the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. So we'll start off with open session for citizens to be heard. Have anybody signed up?
No, Mr. President.
Okay, we got citizens here, which is great. We don't usually have participants, so thank y'all for coming. So we'll move on to consent agenda items 3 through 5. Just to read off about consent agenda, all consent agenda items listed are considered routine by EDC staff and are intended to be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a director requests it, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. So with that, do I have any requests to remove any of the items off the consent agenda? Okay. So with that, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I motion to approve consent agenda items number 3 through 5.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Motion passes. All right, so now we'll move on to our committee reports. Just to give everybody kind of an update on the committee items. Our committees are recently formed with three. We've started out with three committees that we have not had before as part of the EDC, and they may expand into more in the future, but for now we have an executive, a finance, and a governance committee, each with its own roles and responsibilities to the board, kind of a little bit different on everything that we're looking at. So we'll start off with the executive committee. I'm happy to give an update. Melody, John, if you want to have at it. Okay.
Go for it, sir.
I'll give an update on the executive committee. So we've been very active on the executive committee, mainly involving one of our items that's actually going to be into one of our individual consideration items further down in our agenda. But we've also had some good discussions in our monthly meeting with the mayor and Councilmember Sanders, who's kind of our liaison to the EDC. So good discussions, mainly policy type items, and understanding some of the simple things that we take for granted that maybe we didn't know how to do before. Check signing abilities, who signs off on checks, all these things that actually the committees have come up with policies on. We're now enacting and of course working out any bugs that we have as we're actually start to follow these new procedures that we put in place. So really from the executive committee side, again, you'll see that last item that we'll have on there that we've spent a lot of focus on. John, Melody, you want to add anything in particular that you want to kind of give an update on?
No.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on to finance committee. Do we have any on the finance committee wants to give an update?
I'll do it.
Okay.
If you wanted to.
Oh,
Finance committee has been hard at work getting our budget proposal together, and Glenn is accusing us of not having good vision plans and making much appreciated large sheets of paper.
Yes.
So as our board ages, and we have been hard at work putting that together so we can run that through. That's kind of been the focus since our last meeting.
Perfect. Okay, we'll move on to governance committee. Any updates on the governance committee side?
So the governance committee, we have not actually met, but the only thing that we really need to address at this moment is the renewal of Melody, yourself, Blaine, and myself, which I think that we're all in agreement that we're going to move forward with another renewal. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
So that's the biggest thing that we have in front of us at the
Okay.
moment, which
Very good.
we'll tackle in October, I believe.
Good. And again, everybody's put a lot of hard work in establishing the procedures and policies that we have in place now that we never had before, at least not directly related to us. So I know that we're kind of working through all those, and we'll continue. Again, I see the committees are going to probably expand into subcommittees in the future as we have special tasks that will be taken on. But we're off to a great start on that side. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the items for individual consideration. So for all our guests here, what happens with these items is some of them are discussion and action. So we'll actually have motions for discussion and an action, whether it be approval or disapproval. I think we have just a couple of of items that are just regular old presentations as well. So with that, we'll move on to item number 9, discussion action to approve a request by Tim and Wanda Baller to participate in the Retailer and Tenant Improvement Grant Program. All right, Glenn?
So I can kick it off real quick, and then I'll pass it off to Tim to give a little bit of a story. But we do have the Retailer and Commercial Tenant Improvement Grant Program that the board currently has only approved 1 application. We just received a second application from Tim and his wife, and yesterday we actually just got a third one in, but definitely too late to try to get it on this agenda.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely excited about the change in ownership and bringing in a different type of business to Helotes. As many of you notice on Facebook, right, we get hit a lot for chicken. And Golden Chick has recently closed down because they were purchased by Tim. So let the board know what your plans are with the property and
Sure.
even a little about yourself.
Sure. First of all, thanks for considering our project. We are planning on, my wife and I, on opening an HTO. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of HTO, but it's, think Starbucks, but iced tea. And we're pretty excited about it. There are about 40 or 50 open now across several different states. And there are 4 in San Antonio, and they are actually the highest profit units right now in the company. So San Antonio is really, taking a liking to HTO. Anyway, as Glenn mentioned, we are in the process of getting permits for building at the HTO where the Golden Chick was. And we're just, right now, we have our general contractors, 4 of them bidding on the project, and we have those coming back by this Friday. And at that time, we'll pick a contractor, and then we can move along with the building department here, getting the permits and all. So anyways, we're really excited about it. Wanda, do you have anything that you want to say?
No, we are local members that we live here in Helotes, so we're excited about growing a business here in Helotes. We are hoping for your support in helping us finance this. We're hoping that we can get our bids under 700, but we don't know. So we're really asking for some support and making sure that happens and helping us grow.
Right, and we're not, this is our very first time we've ever done something like this. I worked for Frito-Lay for 34 years, retired, and my wife still works over at UTSA, and so it's not like we are franchise kings, and got several around. This, our heart and soul, everything we've got, literally, is going into this, and so we're gonna make it work, and we hope with y'all's help that we can do this.
All right. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay, so with that, since this is a discussion action item, do I have any motions for discussion and action on this item for consideration?
Before we do that, I know I don't have to, but I am going to recuse myself from this vote because I'm going to be opening up and applying for this grant, so I just want to stay out of it completely.
Sure, totally understandable. Okay, so do we have any motions for discussion and action?
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion for discussion and action to approve, so that since the motion is, just as is written, this is for approval. So with that, I'll open it up for discussion. We can start.
I'll second.
Second.
Sorry, I always forget that part on this one. All right, so with that, we can now open it up for discussion. So we'll start on the left. Joel, you want to just give some words on it if you got anything for to say?
No, I've had their product before, I guess from the Calabro location, I believe. Does that sound right? So no, I'm excited for them coming to Helotes, something new. I think it's a great location, so I don't have any questions at this time.
Melody?
The same. Excited to have you and don't have any questions, and all the best.
Okay, yeah. The only thing I have, and this is more for just the record, but Glenn, I know that you would always check the boxes before it even got here the first place, but I'm going to assume application met all the requirements that are set forth in that.
Once he actually gets a contractor and has that'll fulfill the last, requirement, but
last
we know
part
it's
of
in the
it.
process. In looking at the score sheet, they have a score of at least 8. And it requires 6 or more to be considered for the full grant amount, so they do qualify easily on that. And that's going down the list based that it is a retail and or restaurant location, however you want to define that. And the number of employees, they fall kind of right in the middle, probably 6 to 10 employees. From all the research that I've done, it may go a little bit higher. And then projected sales tax, just on our collection, probably going to be 5 to 10,000. I have talked with one of the franchisors, and some locations, they do a lot of sales. I think he was saying their best location's doing close to 4,000 a day. Does that sound right?
It's a lot of tea.
That is a lot of tea.
A lot of tea.
And then obviously, I was a little unsure how to do category 5 because it's based on the term of lease and or owner occupied. They actually have both. So they own the property and then they're leasing it back to their corporation. So they at least get 2 points for that.
Okay. Good. Well, I think, just as kind of more of a formality than anything else, I'm excited about it. This is exactly what this program was set up for. And so our second application, we're excited about having local business and residents come and do something with that business. Otherwise, I don't know what would happen with that building with Chick-fil-A moving out, it'd probably sit vacant for at least a while. So I'm glad it's getting filled with a good opportunity. Golden Chick, sorry.
Yeah,
Not Chick-fil-A.
Close.
John, anything? Oh, you're recruited, that's all right.
Pass.
Lisa?
No, just excited, looking forward to it.
I'm excited as well. I did have a question. I'm familiar with the property, but how many square feet is that property?
18,
About 1,800 square feet.
The building.
The building, and then the property itself is about 1.5 acres.
Gotcha. And I know y'all are not there yet, but what's y'all's projected timeline to be open and running?
well,
The goal date.
There have been some setbacks, not necessarily with us, but in the chain building because of supply chain issues. Putting that aside, if everything goes normal, we're thinking late November, something like
quick.
that.
Wonderful.
That is quick.
Right now it'd be awesome to have it open.
Yeah, I tell you what, this heat out there. Yeah. So is it all iced tea? I mean, I'm not familiar. I've seen it, but I'm not familiar with it.
Well, it's called premium water, ice, and iced tea, but they use anyway,
Premium iced tea.
premium iced tea. It is
It's made with,
Alkaline water?
osmosis water.
Okay, RO water.
Osmosis water, and there's other products in the store. It's no cooking of anything. It's prepackaged, high-end, prepackaged types snacks, and also we will be selling things like Yeti coolers and cup holders, that kind of thing, and T-shirts and hats.
It's not a place where you go in and sit down. You really go in, you make your own tea. There's 27 different flavors. You can mix and match them with sweet and unsweet and coconut and peach, so you can mix and match whatever you want. We usually have a new flavor come in once a quarter or so. Like right now, we have strawberry passion in. So it's tea that you come in, you're there 5-10 minutes. So it's not a place where you sit down and we're not looking for people to hang out there or anything like that. It's really come in, get your tea, drive through, get your tea, get your ice, your water.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to have y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's both sweet and unsweet tea, and they offer samples, so you can go in and try everything if you want. Spend a little extra time.
And there's also fruit that you can put, different types of
Fruit bar.
fruits and things like that you can add yourself to the teas and all.
So it'd be like the tea version of like mint cheese or something like that.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
I like it. That's really neat. I'm gonna have to go try it. I'm gonna have to go try it, but I'll make sure to come try y'all's as well.
Jeff?
I don't have any questions, just good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. All right, so right now on the table is a motion was for approval. So with that, if there's no further discussion, I'll go
Mr.
ahead.
President, can I ask one question of staff real quick? Would this, if we approve it, will this go on our budget for this year, or would it roll into next year's budget?
It depends when he actually pays the contractor and when he remits back
Gotcha.
to us. So it's a possibility it could get finished this year. It likely will go into next year.
Gotcha.
Yep.
I would assume.
And since we got our budgets in front of us, Glenn, I think we have a line item in here specifically for this.
We do.
Question on that, if it rolls over, does he have to be paid in full to make it, or can it be done on a draw?
The way it's structured, honestly, is paid in full. But I can double check to see if there's any wiggle room.
Any other good question?
That's all.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, I will now, so again, the motion is for approval. So with that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, so motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Good job.
we're always excited about new business.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah. Sorry, I didn't even,
Yeah, there's,
probably in your packet, but that's what the
Yeah.
tool will look like.
Yeah, we saw that.
Good. All right, so with that, we'll move on to number 10. So number 10 is discussion and direction on redesigning an HEDC sign located in Old Town Helotes along Highway 16. So this is this is not an action item. This is to give direction to staff on how we want to pursue it. Thank you all for coming.
Thank y'all for coming.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Sure.
How we want to pursue, so Glenn has some direction on what we want to do with the sign. And this is the sign that's there as you're coming into Old Town. That's actually on the Bandera Road side, black sign that's kind of having some issues with some peeling of the paint and so forth. So with that, do we actually have to take a motion for discussion and direction? Okay, since it's on.
I'll motion.
Okay. thank you.
Second.
We got a motion and a second, so we can open this up for discussion. Glenn, why don't you give your thoughts first so we can kind of formulate our questions or direction?
Definitely, I put a picture in here because a few members I reached out to couldn't recall seeing the sign as they drive through. It's kind of
It's
50
blends in.
It's 15 foot tall, thereabouts, for the sign. It has been up for about 6 to 7 years, and so you can start definitely seeing some age of the vinyl. It's a vinyl wrap actually on the sign. So that gives us the ability, they'll try to peel it off, but they may just have to overlay on top. We'll find out how badly damaged the vinyl is, right? But when we went out, got 3 quotes, the finance committee approved moving forward with one of the vendors. And then, but they wanted to bring the general design back. Their thought was trying to redo the design, honestly, do something different, refresh. So we wanted to get everybody's input to see kind of the direction. I personally would recommend maybe incorporating the Old Town Helotes logo in the sign. But I'm open for ideas.
Sure.
I think that we need some brighter colors, something a little more eye-catchy.
Well, that was going to be my question to our resident sign expert. Does the color really matter? Like, do any of them really hold up any better? Like anything like, I figured not, but wanted to at least ask the question.
Yeah, your inner issue would be that the black is absorbing more
Right.
heat, right? Maybe
That my thought was maybe if it does that, it fails more quickly than I just purely a blanket question. I figured as much, but yeah, cool. Thank you.
Could we tie it into anything else that we're doing as far as visit Helotes, shop Helotes, that type of keeping some congruency between those
Absolutely.
different projects that we have going, that this signage would also match maybe what we're doing on the website or any changes that we're doing there was my thought. So color scheme, logos and stuff like that could be drawn from what we're already paying for in the redesign of our websites that we've done and updated and those type of things. So just use what we've already kind of done.
Yeah,
in this,
I think
but
it's a good idea.
I agree with brighter colors or something that, there's probably too much on this sign. That people just don't read it because it's too much as they drive by. Maybe, I'm not sure. That's not my forte.
Yeah.
I think the Helotes, Texas part on the top of it is just kind of distracting. It's hard to read. I think if you just eliminated that and made, welcome to Old Town bigger, it would be more eye-catching. To me, that
Hello, Texas?
the Hello Texas kind of runs together.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all good input. Question on, so on the parking, I see it has a sign there for the parking. That parking specifically for just certain, I forgot, what's their deal with, on the parking side?
So Martin Terry owns that lot in and around the Antique Depot, the Red Barn. And so we have a shared parking agreement. So typically outside of a floor concert, that is public parking.
Okay.
Anyone in Old Town for Helotes Marketplace, anything that's going on. On a floor concert night, then he has the ability to charge for parking.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is my input. I like everybody's ideas. I agree that the Hello Texas there's a lot going on up there that maybe can be simplified. Music entertainment is kind of the same thing whenever you think about it. So maybe we could save some space for some additional, or maybe just make it bigger. And then I've drove by the sign a million times, but I've never really noticed that it does point to parking. Maybe that we could actually give it a little bit more emphasis to that so people know to go park in there, because I don't think a whole lot of people do know to go park in there. But that's my only input. I think everybody's ideas are great.
Are those solar lights on top?
Yeah.
Is there any power close to there?
I think they're kind of a joke as far as the amount of light output that
Right.
they have.
Yeah,
There's not an easy way to bring out electricity. We can contract with CPS Energy to possibly bring out a security light or bring out power. Mr. Terry said he would be okay with that. Obviously, there's pretty good expense if we're putting in a meter.
Yeah.
We've done those meter drops throughout Old Town. It's a couple $1,000s, easy. Security light would be a little cheaper, but there's an ongoing cost. And I want to say it's around $54 a month for a security light.
Yeah, but it's a good thought. Lighting is important.
I think if, it would be expensive, yes, to light it, but part of me thinks that'd be a really good idea so that it's actually visible.
Right.
Another option, because obviously we have mega lighting that's in our ETJ and they deal with LED lighting. He said there's commercial grade lighting that he could do off of a solar,
Like a
and
panel.
battery installation.
Yeah.
And I can always reach out and get a quote and bring it to you
Yeah,
guys.
I
I
think
would
that'd be-
definitely like
that'd be
that.
great. I think that lighting in this is really important because a lot of the people coming to Helotes are coming at night. They're going to these concerts or leaving these concerts, And I think that branding is important.
Are we keeping the shape of it?
I would say yes, if you want to keep costs down. But
Yeah.
if
Is
you
it-
wanna-
Is it metal?
Metal or wood or?
Aluminum? Yeah.
That's aluminum?
Yeah.
And
Good sign.
if you're just replacing it and updating it, it does not have to go to P and Z. It can be
Okay.
done administratively. If you're changing anything of the sign, it will have to go to P and Z and
We're
then.
not changing, we're not changing anything.
Does that include lighting?
Yes.
I've been to too many of those meetings about signage. I want to say it.
Does that include lighting or is lighting?
If it's different kind of lighting, I have to look at that, but I believe if you're just replacing solar with solar, you know what I mean, that type of
Right.
thing, then that works. If you're doing a different type of spotlight, then that would have to go.
The design, different
Don't be
design?
scared of going before
Yeah,
planning and
don't
zoning. They're a good commission.
I would, if we're gonna do this, I think that if we need to go to P and Z, I think we go to P and Z. I think if we're gonna do it, we need to do it right, don't halfway do it.
I agree.
Is vinyl the best option for a sign like this?
Pretty much.
And should it last about 6 years? Is that about right? Okay.
In Texas, son.
Well,
And what
yeah.
you'll notice on the two different sides, I think this is the worst side.
Yeah.
The other side looks
It still
pretty
looks
good.
Yeah.
This is the all.
Yeah, it's just the difference in the sun angle,
Yeah.
which, tell us which side to put the solar panel on. So,
That's right.
Very true.
so, I think with that, I mean, is it, so do we have a vendor that we've got picked out?
Yes,
And that does it include design as well, like just some very broad?
maybe.
Maybe.
We'll try to twist some arms. But we could, I mean, we could try to get, our vendor that's doing the Shop Lotus website and stuff, and
Right.
see if we can coordinate, the color scheme and the branding
Yeah,
aspect.
yeah, it would be, that's,
To bring a final design to you guys when we have it and for approval?
Well, maybe there should be like a small committee that does that.
I mean, okay.
They're all I mean,
Or at least for review, just so we
for
all
a
know what's
review, I
going
mean, we
on.
can all look at the very end product, but just kind of some basic stuff.
Yeah, I think we put a committee together to work with them on the design and give the committee the power to act.
Okay.
yeah, so why don't you just reach out to everybody, Glenn, by email, see who's interested in it, and obviously we gotta keep it to 3 members again, so we're not in quorum, so that's always the fun part.
We'll
Thank you.
just, are y'all
Yeah.
okay with doing it with the governance committee?
It's definitely, I'm feeling
Yes.
more colors and lighting
Like
is
we should do
big.
something.
Good idea. You want to do that?
Are you cool?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Governance committee will do the sign.
All right.
I didn't mean to not do that, sorry. Just, the muscles or something.
Back thereof.
You're like,
I know. Sorry.
Okay, good direction. So again, there's no action on that, it's just direction. I think, Glenn, do we have enough for you to move forward on that? Okay. All right, let's go back up to the agenda. So that will now bring us to item number 11. This is discussion and action on sponsorship for the Helotes Chamber 0.5K in Old Town Helotes. So Glenn, why don't you present, and then we'll see if we have anybody that wants to make an action on it for discussion as well.
Okay, hopefully you guys are now familiar with it. It's not the first time the 0.5K has come before the Board of Directors. I can say we just got an update from the Chamber this afternoon that they have received all but one signature from the businesses in Old Town. So at least everyone's acknowledged it. 2 people did sign that they would prefer not to close the streets out of all of the businesses in Old Town. And those 2 businesses, it was Texas Grounds Coffee and Cheetah-Lish. Byron Faust even signed off. He wouldn't say whether or not he was in favor or against, actually, but he signed off on the permit, and I was blown away that they were able to get that signature. So this is the 4th year that the Chamber will be holding the race. Well, I should say air quotes race, right? And it starts at the traffic circle, goes down to Line 101, where they have an after party. It has been a lot of fun. Last year, the mayor joined out and even dressed up as like pizza man.
guy.
Yeah, pizza guy. It was
Nice.
It's funny. So people definitely have fun with it. And last year they broke a record as far as, it was increased sponsorship, increased participants, number of, vendors, everything. It's somehow I don't know if you guys remember the old, just stuck with me from last year, Six Flags commercials, the old man who dances in the suit. He showed up and got on stage and started dancing, and he saw it on Facebook and wanted to come out and have fun. That's awesome.
And I guess before we open it up for motion, I'm sure the question in everybody's mind is, how much is the sponsorship we're talking about?
So, in the past, we've either done 2,000 or 3,500. Those are the 2 levels that the EDC has done in the last 3 years.
Good.
And what are the fringe benefits that we got from this? I remember something about a table we got.
There. So which one is this? This is the Ultimate Procrastinator. This is the 3,500, which is basically their title sponsorship. Right now, Frost Bank is the other title sponsor currently. So here's a list of most of the benefits. I know the chamber is open to negotiating if there's something else that is needed. If you wanted a vendor table, or if you wanted any number of things that you come up with, they've been really flexible to work with all the businesses. So you get your logo, at least at the minimum, you get logo on all printed materials and press release. Those are about to go out the first part of August. And that's why I put this item on the agenda now, even though the event is October 22nd, 2022. Logo on the 0.5K website and the registration page. logo on electronic correspondence about the race, recognition and post-event feature story, mentions the logo on social media. Some of the additional benefits, they're not necessarily guaranteed, but they've happened every year so far. They have a pretty good relationship with Fox News and with KENS 5, and typically they can get on-air mentions or even get a feature on those stations. The on-site recognition, you get company featured as a title sponsor on the registration tent. That does come with a 10x10 vendor space as well. You get prime logo recognition on the event signage and race t-shirts, logo on the race bib and finisher medal, shout out at the event with the opportunity to speak at the starting line, sponsor at the after party. Really, that's another just branded area down by Wayne 101. If you want to provide volunteer staffing, they do that. So I know Frost Bank takes advantage of that. Randolph Brooks has as well, where they have some of their employees. They offer volunteer hours on some of the major company or larger companies. And they'll wear their company shirts and just show that they're supporting the community. You can add marketing materials to the swag bag. That's honestly every sponsorship level. Typically, the EDC has done the drawstring race bags that get stuffed with all the swag. So then everybody is wearing a bag that says, Shop Helotes, which, since we're going through this rebranding phase here in the future, it'll be Visit Helotes. And then you get 14 race entries, regular race entries, or it would be 7 VIP. Then post-race recognition, name listed in the annual report, logo included in all post-race communications. So they send out thank you recognition on the website, on Facebook. They do an e-blast. Right now, I want to say they have over 12 or 1,300 people that have signed up for their newsletter communications. So that has grown a lot since last year.
All right, thank you very much for that information. So with that, since this is an action item, I would ask that if you're going to make a motion for approval or sponsorship, that you say what level that your motion's on, and that way everybody knows what they're voting on.
I'll make a motion for discussion and action on this as written.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, just to be clear though, John, your motion, since this will be for approval or sponsorship,
Yep.
what level are you thinking?
The $3,500 level.
Okay.
I can, do you want me to talk? Is that?
Yeah, now we got a motion and second on that. And I'm gonna assume the second's good for the 3,500 level.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Okay.
I'd like to have the discussion about it.
Yeah, sure. So John, obviously you got passionate about it, so
Yeah.
I hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'd say I'm a little passionate about it. I went to the event last year and had a ton of fun. And more importantly, what I saw was a lot of people having a lot of fun. And, folks out there with their kids and really what I kind of think what we're looking for to attract folks to come out and visit the Helotes and things to do aside from just shopping. Folks really had a great time, and it was really nice to see. I know I had fun, and my wife was there with us, and just everybody was all smiles all day long, and it was really great to have the EDC be involved in that. And I think, and that was at the kind of the tail end of the pandemic, and hopefully we're kind of washing out of that now. So I have a feeling that this is going to be even more popular than what it was last year, more than likely, as folks are out and about more often. And on top of that, we're looking to get ourselves out there in the community and to be out there and be involved. And I think that this is a great way for us to show our faces, be active in our town, as both physically and financially. So that's where I'm landing.
Good. We'll go and kind of go back around. Melody, do you have anything you want to add on it?
Do you know about how many attended last?
Last year, there was 276 on site. And it's honestly just the runners. That doesn't count the businesses that showed up and had vendor space. You usually don't count that.
And it was very profitable for y'all?
It was for the chamber, yes.
Yes, for the chamber, yes. Okay.
Overall, they raised a little over 32,000, if I recall. Profit, I think was 27,000, maybe. I
Okay,
don't know.
It wasn't quite that much.
It might have been, yeah.
okay.
No, it's been a while.
The gross revenue is correct, but I don't,
I think the profit was.
the profit wasn't quite that much. It was closer to 20,
Okay,
a little over 20. I don't
Well,
recall.
it's good for one event. It's,
for one event,
And
that's
so
very good.
just to let you know too, the way the chamber utilizes the funds, primarily scholarships. I know since the foundation's inception, this is kind of spearheaded by the foundation arm of the chamber. They've given out 23 scholarships. This last year, they actually bumped them up to 6 $2,000. They used to give $1,000 increments. They donate to the Walter Gerlach Livestock Show, which is primarily O'Connor FFA and 4-H. And then they sponsor the Carnival, and then they also created a Excellence in Community Service with the Miss Helotes Scholarship Pageant. And it started out 2 years ago at 500, and they upped that this year to 1,000.
Right.
yeah,
So they utilize all the funds. They try to spend it here locally.
More questions?
okay. Joel? Anything?
I have to recuse myself. I'm the vice chair of the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, all right. Jeff, we'll go to the end here.
No, I think it's a good cause. It brings a lot of people into Old Town. You know, some of the businesses aren't happy the road's closed, but I think they will get sales tax revenue off of it. Is it on Saturday?
It is. It's a Saturday. The roads, they try to limit it as much as possible for the negative impact that it could have on traffic. Roads closed from 9 to noon. This year, they're going to try to make an effort to get the roads opened a little earlier. And they've also kicked around some kind of creative ideas to get people to go visit the businesses. So one of them, whether it works or not, I don't know, but they're going to do a stamp card, almost like playing bingo, and put all the business names and logos on there and then tell them to go around to the shops to get them stamped by the owner. If they do, they'll be entered into a raffle. They're trying to figure out what that prize is. I've suggested it needs to be significant to get these people to go visit. So it'll likely be
Shots
several-
gift certificate.
right? $100 at Shots, whatever, you know.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Jeff, any more questions on it?
No, I'm good.
I have more of just kind of a question / concern. I agree that we should sponsor this. What my concern is that if we're at the top level, we're taking a spot for someone that could potentially actually put good product in there, for the giveaway that they could, benefit from. That's why in my mind, the lollygagger might be a little bit better. I know we opened discussion up at the top tier, but
Yeah.
if we're taking that top tier and Frost is already there, then that means no one else can come in at that tier that might actually have a product or service that they're trying to advertise.
Okay. Glenn, I guess
I
on
would say
that.
I'm good at whatever level. I will say that every level of sponsorship allows for product inclusion in the swag bag. Most of them allow for representatives on site. And one of the new levels they created this year, find it, is like a contributing partner. And again, even that, if a company just wants to donate product, like promote themselves, they can do that. They'll get logo on their signage. They can include the stuff in the swag bag and have a vendor space. And that was done a little bit thinking about the local businesses, the small businesses, whether it's Healthy Balance or it's Barbell Sweets, or trying to get those businesses out to participate at a low cost to them. All they are out is product.
I like that idea. Okay.
Melissa?
I don't have any questions. I think it's a good,
Good cause. Yeah. Yeah, I like I agree that I think there's probably going to be a better turnout here. I'm sure Chambers is hoping for it, just because I do think that the effects of the pandemic are starting to wear off a little bit to where people are getting out more. So I do think for the same amount of money we spent last year, we're going to get literally more bang for the buck, right? Because there's going to just be more people that we're making touches on. Always the big question is, and I know it's always in there, but just for the record, I mean, this would come out of our marketing budget, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And right now, for what we foresee, obviously, we have what our marketing budget was last year and what we spent. Do we foresee anything right now, Glenn, going into next year are going to be things that we should be thinking about that are going to need a lot more money that's coming out of that budget line item than what we had before?
Not necessarily. I think the way the finance committee has come up and added some new line items that used to come out of marketing. So we've allocated separate funds for those.
Okay.
And then obviously we're going to go into a lot more detail when we discuss the budget.
Very good.
So right now, we're under budget significantly.
Yes.
All right. Well, if there's no further discussion, so right now, the motion and second on the board is sponsorship at the 3,500 level. So if Greg, just for a curiosity question, anything else, but if like somebody seconded, but after discussion, they're like, well, maybe it wasn't such a good second after all, do you actually have the ability to
You can
undo your
amend.
second? You could amend your second,
Amend the motion.
but it wouldn't have to be the original person.
But it would just be to the level.
The original person
Yeah.
would have to
Amend
amend
it,
it.
right.
Right, they're the only ones that can, otherwise you have to put it up to vote.
Okay, very good. So with that, John, I'm going to assume you don't want to amend your motion at this point. Okay, so with that, I'll take a vote now for sponsorship at the $3,500 level. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, none. So motion passes. Good discussion. So we will now move on to item number 12, discussion and direction on rebranding of shophelotes.com. So again, this is not an action item. So really, right here in the beginning, I'll just open it up for a motion for discussion and direction.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a second. So now we're officially open for discussion and directions, and I'm sure the direction will come out of the discussion. So Glenn, why don't you kind of present what you got?
Absolutely. So we initially set money aside in the FYE 2022 budget to begin rebranding Shop Helotes. I know with some of the organizational changes, it got put on the back burner. But we've sat down with ESD, and the reason we selected ESD and Associates, they've designed the city site, the EDC site, both new ones. They have our maintenance and hosting service. They've been really easy to work with. I didn't see any need to go out and try to find another contractor. And they can tie into our existing stuff pretty easily. I think should the current Shop Helotes site, it was a great site. It is starting to show its age and kind of usability on mobile devices and stuff. It's not always flawless. We've had a couple of strategy planning meetings. I know Marion's joined us in the beginning at several of those, and Judy is the principal over at ESD and Associates, and kind of done what they call a wireframe. There's nothing on the back end. It's just kind of a static image of a proposed site. She actually gave me 6 different versions. They vary so slightly. But the big discussion I think that we wanted to have as far as the branding side, are we looking at just having a simplified, user-friendly, mobile-friendly site, or do we want to take it a little bit to the next level and completely rebrand, a new logo, all that? We have talked about switching from Shop Helotes to Visit Helotes, because I think it's what people are used to be quite honest. If they're going to other sites, it likely will help us in our rankings doing that.
On doing that, you'll have to get another domain on the visit, correct? Our domain It has expired on the visit.
Did it expire?
I believe it's, so we would, all you have to do is get another domain, which isn't very expensive. And what I would recommend is regardless of anything else, the Shop Helotes just have that redirected because of the people that already know Shop Helotes and so forth. So if they just go to Shop Helotes, they'll just redirect them to visit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Evidently, the city already owns Visit Helotes, because I looked at it the other day and it redirects you to the
yeah.
city.
Yeah, I don't know if it got renewed. I'd have to check on that.
So,
Definitely double check that we don't lose that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to discuss?
No, we actually,
Already got it.
we're already up, Mayor, we're up, and so let's go ahead and just start discussion. Jeff, we'll start with you in the end.
I like the sample that she gave here. Whatever we do needs to be mobile friendly. But that being said, we also need to have a desktop version, because there's a lot of people that sit at their desk all day long as well that will look at stuff. But we do, whatever we need to do needs to be mobile friendly too. That's my main concern. I do like the look of the new sample that they gave. I like how it's got the little icons across the top there showing, you know, where to, you know, if you want to shop or eat and drink, play, entertainment. To me, it looks more user friendly.
Okay. Greg?
I'm in agreement with Jeff. I think that it does need to be updated, and I think that we should get away from Shop Helotes because we do want people to visit. I mean, it's just like all the branding we're seeing from Galveston and Port Aransas and Rockport and everywhere else. I know those are all coastal cities, but you know, Kerrville and everywhere else, it's come visit. It's not just come shop, not come spend your money here. Mm-hmm. And I think that might be a good direction for us to go. I don't know how much more work we need to do to get that going, but.
So part of the hope, if obviously after tonight, we have the direction to move forward with Visit Helotes and maybe tweaking the branding, the logo of it, is we'll have the branding done before the YOLO gets aired. So we will start transitioning. We're actually set to launch this site 2 weeks before YOLO goes live. So yeah, no, we're trying to put all the pieces together. So when we hit October, we're launching a whole new kind of product and campaign. And then now we'll have hopefully the sign in Old Town that mirrors all of this. And
I'm wondering if Visit Helotes is even the best slogan to go with, if we could come up with something a little bit better. And I don't hang your hat in Helotes. I don't know. It was just something else that's kind of catchy that might make people think. Just a thought.
All right. Melissa, thoughts?
I'm the same way, just something to think about, different catchy phrase.
Okay.
Will we keep the same logo, the tag? Or will that change?
I would look at changing the logo.
The whole thing, right?
Some of the discussion is potentially using the EDC logo, because we have the windmill and the windmill's incorporated with the city logo, and we do have several iconic windmills in and around Helotes. Not exactly sure how it's gonna look, but we can play around with it.
Okay. Anything else, Melissa?
Just brighter colors, the colors on
Yeah.
here just
Okay.
kind of bland.
It looks like it's October.
It's fall colors. It is, yeah.
We wish it was October.
We'll say it's easy to change colors, so we could change it every season.
Every
Hey,
season,
every quarter.
That'd be great if it,
Actually, I feel like that would,
that could work.
yeah, I mean, like.
But how
for
would
our
you do
winter-
that with the sign?
If there's-
Gotta get a good price on it. You can figure something out with LEDs and
Yeah.
colors and
same price though.
Do
something.
Get creative, make sure that LED light has color changing ability.
I think we need somebody, a crew to go into the sign every time, put reads and all,
Yes. Probably be us.
You good?
I'm good, thank you.
Whenever we were discussing this in the executive committee, there was a discussion between a redesign and a rebrand and really what the difference was. And we were really leaning toward, a redesign would be literally just shifting everything that said shop to visit. And everything else, for the most part, stays the same with a few tweaks and updates. A rebrand would be new logo, completely new website, sort of starting from scratch. discussing with a marketing third party about, do we need a new slogan? Like, essentially looking at what we have been doing and seeing if we needed to change it. And really what the executive committee kind of bounced back and forth was to talk to the board about it, because we felt like a rebrand was probably in order, but that can be something that's much more labor and financially intensive. I'm in full support of shifting everything that says shop to visit, because I do want people to come and visit, and while they're here, they will partake and eventually open their wallets, because that's what we do when we visit places. I do also think that the logo and the website need updating, and to me, that is half a step in the direction of rebranding, especially with YOLO debuting, with us having the 0.5K and a bunch of new faces that aren't necessarily local coming out and visiting with us, and we can kind of tie all those things in together and sort of, make our big unveil prior to all that, so that people can see it and we can advertise, hey, we have a new website, we have a new everything, go check it out. So I'm very much in favor of all this.
Okay. I'm with John on it. I think, things are always changing, especially on the marketing side. It's just the way that business is, and just the way people are. This website's been the same for quite a while now. I do think it's in order for a revamp on the website, and I do think something that's more of a Helotes in broad sense, and not just shop Helotes, is also and so. I know we talked about Visit Helotes. I don't know if that's the right logo as well, or right terminology we want to use, but I definitely think Shop Helotes is going to run its course. So, Melody?
I agree with everyone that it's time for a new face. I definitely, on rebranding, for sure. And I'd like to see more windmills.
Literally?
More Shop
Yeah, yes, definitely, for the Visit Helotes or something else, but yeah, not shop. Yep.
There's one aspect I kind of want to mention on this new proposed site that I didn't explain, because I've been part of it, so I just know it's there. Plan a trip. That is going to be a big change to the site. You'll be able to go in, put dates that you're planning on coming to Helotes, and actually plan an itinerary. You can save it, you can add it to your calendar, you can share it. The sharing feature, I think, could be fun if people utilize it. Well, we're going to try to incentivize that too. So yeah, you'll be able to pick your interest, and it'll give you recommendations.
Very cool.
Okay.
Good.
I was part of the conversation, just talking on the finance committee about this, and agreed that the current site that we have has probably run its course as far as its marketability, and to continue to not only show up, but be viable to people and show digitally on their, not digitally, but mobilely on their phones, is something that it needs to be the focus. So I'm in favor of it, and I think we already voted to bring that here to the board for that, so.
Okay. So really, we don't have a real action on this other than to give direction. Glenn, do you have the direction, enough direction? I know it's still a little bit, there's still a little, I know
Make it
clear as mud.
Make it user-friendly, make it mobile, yeah.
Yes.
You got it.
Good stuff.
And then
We'll do it.
make a good slogan that everybody will want to.
Yeah.
Glenn, I did have that question. Is EDC going to, I'm sorry, not EDC, ESD going to provide us with some logos and things like that part of their marketing that they're doing? Are they?
Decide to go the rebranding, basically, then yeah, we can sign a separate contract with them.
Oh, a
It'd
separate
be an
contract.
additional
Okay.
fee. They were willing to take something similar to what we either have with Shop Helotes or with, I don't have the logo anymore up there, or the EDC logo.
Well, that's fine.
And try to transform that into Visit Helotes at no charge, but if we really want to go through and see several different kinds of logos and how we can incorporate them, go through slogans and all that kind of stuff, there will be a fee.
Yeah. I think I'm just feedback I'm getting everybody's ready for a revamp, and I'm afraid if we poor boy this and try just to take what we have and and change it a little bit, I think we're all gonna be unhappy with the results.
Okay.
So,
I do wanted to say, I think the visit Helotes or whatever your URL needs to be really short because then people will forget it.
Yeah.
And then where it says gateway to the hook, that's where you can put your branding, your new slogan on there. And that would pop better, and that's what you could do and use as part of your hashtag and everything else.
Okay.
But whatever your URL, I would keep it something simple where they can remember that,
Yeah.
instead of trying to figure out, oh, what was it, again, and so forth.
yeah, in a way that easily on a Google search that somebody can type in Helotes, and we come up very, it doesn't have to be the top, usually it's assumed to obviously be the city's website that will be the top of it, but, somewhere close to the top 5 at least.
If we're gonna do this, though, I do recommend that we move forward quickly so that it is live and up and running before YOLO airs.
Absolutely.
Because once YOLO airs, we're gonna have a lot more hits, we should. And then we want it, the new and improved, not the
Right.
old.
Incorporated. I agree.
All right.
So you bring us back something next month? Or,
Yeah, on the branding side, they're already working on the website aspect, the back end. We'll have something else to present to you next month.
Yeah, because.
Really, it's
YOLO
just the
comes out-
logo
Okay.
and the slogan.
Color scheme, slogan, yeah.
Yeah,
so we can't do the sign until they get this?
YOLO comes out
You're
October.
right, the sign needs to correspond
I
with
think
all this.
tentatively October 15th, there's some discussion. They had a cancellation, wanted to know if we wanted to move it up to September. I'm not inclined to do that because we're not gonna have this ready.
And we're talking about the sign will be there.
Holidays.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think right now we're looking at.
I would say don't move forward with that until we.
Okay. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if we delayed, well, obviously I can't
Take whatever
under
we're doing.
programming, but,
We delayed it a week or
Whereas
two.
we can
until-
kind
Yeah.
of mess with the sign a little
Hey,
bit.
could you just go back on that? I know you've probably been
Get
planning
into
on
that.
I think it's the one.
Yeah,
I mean, to me, all we do is drop an economic development off the logo, and that's the logo. That's what
Yeah,
everything is here.
I will say as a sidebar, one of the people I work with are very crafty, and they made me a beer mug for Christmas that's etched, and they knew I loved Helotes and lived here, and they found the most iconic Google image they could find, and it was the EDC logo. Didn't even know I was on the EDC, and printed my name underneath it. It's really cool. So that was the one that stuck out to them the most as non-residents, but that symbolized Helotes. So yeah, I'm definitely on board with just kind of tweaking our current EDC logo into a Visit Helotes logo, just see what it looks like, and going from there.
all right, good. So I will move on to item number 13. This is discussion action on adopting the fiscal year 2023 strategic work plan. So this is the work plan. This is actually the one we worked on recently.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we just need to, unless we're gonna have a lot of discussion on it, but we just need somebody to make a motion on, this would be on adopting the fiscal year 2023 strategic work plan.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion on discussion action on adopting the fiscal year 23 strategic work plan.
Okay, have a second?
Second.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. I think this one's a pretty simple item in that we all know what the strategic work plan is and what we've put in there in our recent work. We're just now at the point to where we have to have it approved by ourselves. Then I guess it goes to council after that. So I guess if there's any discussion on anything we had in the work plan that maybe anybody's had any changes in their mind or directions, I guess, on what we should be doing on it. Of course, any changes that we do make, we'll have to kind of figure out how to work those back into what we work through. But let's find out, is there anybody who would like to make any changes to the strategic work plan as we've written it up?
I do not.
Okay.
Nope.
Nope.
That makes it simple. All right. So this is for adoption of the strategic work plan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. So we now have an adopted 2023 strategic work plan. Which city council will this go to, Glenn?
We can see if we can get it on the
Yeah,
28th.
I mean,
It might
that'd
have to
be,
go August.
just depends because usually we ask for the items.
Yeah, let them
every
have some
day,
time to
but,
review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might be able to get it on the 20th.
Yeah, me personally, I'd rather give them an extra 2 weeks to review, just so it's not hey, this is gonna be on your agenda on the 28th, and you're getting it on the 21st, so, I think it'd be
Well, they wouldn't get it
courteous.
until we post anyway. We always post the Friday before that Thursday council. So
Is
they
it?
always get it at
Okay,
that time.
but you can't have it to them, like,
No, I mean, they could see the EDC, but I can't discuss it through a quorum
Gotcha.
or anything. I can't, but if they know this is coming up, and a lot of them look at the video and the agenda and so forth, so they'll see it.
okay. Yeah, 28th's not a must, it's for the fiscal year, so we actually got, till September, so I guess it's actually in effect. All right, so move on to item number 14. So this is a presentation and action on entering a funding agreement with the city of Helotes to assist with the repayment of debt services related to projects associated with 2015 certificate of obligation and authorizing the interim executive director to take all necessary steps to implement the agreement. So this is, I think you all know what this is, and there's actually a presentation that is at the end of your packet, I guess. Did you get all the slides in here, Glenn?
I did not, but I will have it up on the screen.
Okay, even better.
Shortly.
Just so I'll be able to read. So this is the last time we had direction on what we wanted to do. We brought that direction to our monthly meeting with the mayor and Councilman Sanders, and there was a lot of good discussion about it. And at the end, we've got a plan that's in place. It's not exactly that we all talked about in our last meeting, but it's got some good elements in it, I think, that is a good compromise. I will say that we both came away with not exactly what we both wanted, so maybe that's, a good sign that it is actually meeting somewhere in the middle. So this was just a short, very short PowerPoint presentation regarding, this is our joint debt reduction and public safety initiative. As you know, the goals of the city right now is to hire more public safety and public works personnel. So provide more funding. So the goals initiative, provide more funding for those additional personnel, reduce the current debt obligations for the city of Helotes, resulting in future property tax reductions to the citizens, provide the city of Helotes the ability to address these needs immediately, and provide the EDC the ability to continue to pursue managed and sustainable growth within the city limits and extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Helotes, and provide the EDC the ability to continue to provide support for local businesses, local civic events, and pursue projects that increase the quality of life within the community. So that's kind of the goal of what I think we all want to achieve. We want to achieve the funding for the city, but at the same time, keep allowing the EDC to keep operating with what we're currently doing. So how do we fund all this? Well, the things that are in the table that are potentials for funding of the additional personnel is a 0.25 increase in sales tax. Of course, that's a separate item that will be on the election in November. Reduction in cost for dispatch services. Probably most of you all are familiar with that, but that's really a way that we can reduce. We've kind of talked about whether it's revenue or reduction. At the end of the day, we're paying so much money to Bear County for dispatch that we could actually be to where we're almost a contract service. There's a lot of negotiation that needs to go with it, but that is another possible funding mechanism for the additional personnel. And then last is a financial contribution from us, the Economic Development Corp. So talking about debt reduction first. So this is specifically for the 2015 certificate of obligation that is being debt serviced with the city of Helotes right now. And so these are its yearly debt service costs that the city is going to be incurring up through the end of the obligation, which is 2035. And I think Glenn, if you hit the button, it kind of gives a couple of highlights. There you go. So for the 2015 certificate obligation, the total cost of this debt service is and this is what's remaining. So obviously the obligation started back in 2015, but just taking it from 2022 to 2035, it's approximately 3.9 million. And then the cost of the yearly debt service payments in the years 2028 through 2030 are going to be over $500,000, which is a significant increase over what the normal payments are that you can see up there, which are sub 200s till you get past that time frame. So a lot of debt that's about to be incurred with a significant increase coming in the next 5 years. So timing under funding, and this is, I know we talked about this a little bit, but just to kind of rehash on what happens with timing. So additional funding is needed immediately to add additional personnel. So the need is here now. And so we want to figure out a way to get that funding in place as quickly as possible. The one way that's been discussed of the EDC participating financially is through a redirection of our sales tax allocation. If we do that, it would have to go to public vote along with the 0.25% increase in tax rate in November of 2022. It gets implemented at the end of the first full quarter after approval. So this would go all the way out to April 2023. And then the first allocation would actually not come, the city wouldn't realize that first allocation until the beginning of the second quarter. So it'd be about June 2023. So almost a full year time frame from where we stand today. And then of course, there's a possibility that if that item's not approved at that November election, the next vote wouldn't happen until May of 2023. And if it got approved at that time, then that first allocation wouldn't be realized until December of 2023. So almost a year and a half. So the other option that we have is for us providing our financial contribution made directly from our budget, which only requires approval of us, of our board and city council. So really on the contribution plan, the EDC will enter with the contract with the city of Helotes to make debt service payments for the 2015 certificate obligation through the end of the payment obligation in 2035. So again, that's that estimated 3.9 million, which averages about $325,000 per year. The financial contribution would be included in the fiscal year 2023 budget, which we're actually looking at now. And first payment would be made on October 2022. So we get it inside this year's budget, and we're able to actually make that contribution this October. The EDC retains our current tax allocation through the length of the contract to support managed growth, small business support, civic event, and quality life projects. A lot of the things we just talked about earlier in our agenda, a lot of those items. So part of our agreement, and this has to be structured through almost a contract, part of our agreement would be that our current allocation would stay as is through the end of this obligation, which is 2035. And then the last part of it, this is where it's a little bit changed from what we've discussed previously. The original request that we had would for us to be granted the water impact fees associated with the water line project on Bandera Road. What we've decided in the city would do the pro rata. We've flopped that now. And so any pro rata reimbursements from the San Antonio Water System to City of Helotes for future developments on Bandera Road from Scenic Loop intersection to Old Bandera Road intersection merge will be transferred to the EDC. So if you remember, just to give you the differences again about what we talked about last time, what we're here today is there was about $1.3 million in water impact fees that are very liquid and available now. And then there's about $1.3 million in what they call pro rata reimbursements. So whenever projects happen along Bandera Road and they tie into the sewer system, there's a calculation SAWS does about based upon the frontage of the properties that then get reimbursed based upon that calculation. An amount gets reimbursed back to the city of Helotes. In our agreement, that money then would be transferred over to us. So not as liquid as the water impact fees, but there is obviously some motivation on their end. The calculation the SAWS used for this is what the project cost is divided by the linear foot of line along there. So it's not there's, because of intersections, roadways, it's not a foolproof, but there is probably, over the next 7 years, there's probably at least, I would estimate, probably about $500,000 in those reimbursements. Specifically, there's a couple of big properties along there that are vacant right now, that if we can help do our job right and get some businesses in there, get some type of development, could make a big difference. And actually, we've got, there is a pretty substantial pro rata reimbursement that's going to be coming here in the very near future from Quick Trip, going there at the intersection of Scenic Loop and Bandera. That's probably within the next 6 months. So again, not exactly what we originally presented, but I do think it's in the spirit of cooperation. And obviously there's the desire for all of us to kind of be united with the city and not have to go to a public vote in November where we're maybe not in total agreement on what, on an increase in, or a decrease in the amount of sales tax that the EDC is currently receiving. So this would be something that would stay within the board and with the city council approval. And I can't guarantee that city council is going to approve either, right? They're their own board as well, but it has to start with the first step, and that step is with us. So with that, that's kind of the presentation part on it. So at this point, really, it's a matter of us voting on an action of either pursuing the initiative as presented, or if there was any type of amendment that anybody wanted to make to it, to try to present to council as well. That's
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work that you put into this, and I think we all appreciate
Thank you.
everything
Yeah.
that you've done.
Definitely, great job and excellent explanation as well. It's very complicated, broken down into 7 slides that make sense.
Yes, yes. I had to make sure I read through them all several times to say, okay, if I'm looking at this from the outside, is it gonna translate? So, but thank y'all. Yeah, it was. And of course, y'all gave great direction since the beginning of this, and whenever we knew there was a possible redirection of our tax allocation, that obviously got everybody here thinking about alternate solutions that we could come to some type of agreement on. So I appreciate everybody's hard work on that as well.
I have one question. Can you go back to slide 4 on that, Glenn? When we're proposing paying this off, we have this as actual debt, yearly debt obligation versus the average of 325.
Right.
What are we proposing to actually pay? Are we going to average this out over the timeline or pay the actual?
Average it out.
Average.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at a flat 325 a year.
Yes.
Regardless of whenever we hit 28, 29, and 30.
Correct.
Okay.
So there's not a balloon payment if we do it this way?
I guess it's built in, just because that 3.9 million will now be, since so these first years that it should only be about 180, we'll still be paying 325. Of course, when it gets
So
up to
we're paying off the offset.
right, and then when it goes up to 500 plus, we're still only paying 325. So, yeah, it's kind of averaging out, which I think is better, easier for us budgeting wise, knowing what that set amount is. And of course, I think I'll remember this from our previous discussions, that in 2027, if I'm correct?
Yes.
One of our certificates operating, or I don't know how many, one of our certificate obligations actually gets paid off in 2027. But good question, John.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So technically, we're not taking over their debt. We're just passing the money on to the city to be used towards this expense.
Correct, yes. So Glenn did look into with the debt service company to see if we could actually take on that obligation, saying, hey, it'll be a note under us, and they cannot do that without an adjustment in the interest rate. So really, this is just an agreement with the city that says we're pledging $3.9 million to them up to the year 2035. that is meant to be used for this debt service. Now, I don't know, Glenn, you know, this is, I'm sure, things that need to be thought contractual wise or whenever the legal document is actually drafted up, if it can be, I don't know if the word forced, if it can be made to where it can only be used for debt service, but I think it goes general fund, doesn't it?
That's the way it's been discussed.
Yeah.
And then that'll left up to council if they're gonna restrict it to debt service or if they'll use it.
So the goal with, when we discussed it, at our executive, with Glenn and so forth, was that this money could be used will be used for the debt service, but will also could be used the first couple of years for more police, more public safety. Now, it's we as a city still have to make these payments, you know what I
Right.
mean? And so we will put money aside to ensure those payments so that we don't have to go back. So what happens when you do an M&O and a sinking, interest in sinking for your taxes? When that debt service comes up to the higher amount, we give that to the Bear Appraisal District, and then they regulate and say, okay, your taxes are gonna go up this much so you can cover your debt service. So that we're trying to avoid that, so that that burden isn't back on the citizens to go up that much, because we have funds that are
Set aside.
that are set
Right.
aside to pay that 500,000. Because if not, then when we say we have this 500,000, they're like, oh, well, we've been just budgeting 180 on your property tax. Now your interest in sinking is going to go up for 3 years to make that debt payment. So to avoid that, this will help put some. So we'll put some of it, because the city also has some debt service monies and so forth that we credit. So what happens is that debt service monies that are there, that is part of our interest in seeking, we'll put aside to cover that in the future. And then, so we will use the 325 to help make the payments, and then whatever's left would help to offset public safety personnel.
Good, thank you for that explanation.
The other question that I have, or one of the other questions, is the Economic Development Corporation is to fund projects that help the economic development of the city of Helotes. This $3.9 million worth of projects are all projects that were set aside and that we can justify were for
Right,
the economic development of?
right, so we
Because
have,
I just want to make sure that we're covering projects that we can legally cover.
right,
I
yeah.
don't want us to get in trouble for covering something that's not eligible for us to cover.
So that's an excellent question, and we did actually get clarification from our city attorney on that. And yes, the actual, by benefiting the, I would call it the quality of life in Helotes, by having extra police and public works staff that actually can help improve the safety of the people, that's actually qualifies under economic development, because you're actually providing that by increasing the quality of life, actually makes it more viable for businesses, and obviously for people to want to move and be in the Helotes, that would then support the businesses. So that's not a direct, we're giving money to a business, we're actually giving the money to the city to improve where people are doing business at, so that there's more people that come and spend their money here. But thank you for that question, yes. sir.
Specifically in regards to the 2015 certificate of obligation, majority of those projects are or could be considered economic development. A lot of them were flood control issues, with Bandera Road, Hausman Road, even 1560. So the attorney said, as long as the board of directors are willing to go with a resolution stating that they feel all of these projects either promote, expand, or, language, betterment of economic development, then it is a legal expenditure. So because of the size city we are, we have a lot of leeway with state law. So it's really anything this board deems as the promotion of economic development, then it makes it legal.
Thank you. Glenn?
Another question?
Sure.
The, where did I just lost my train of thought. Say, and I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Sure.
the bottom falls out of the economy and we lose our huge sales tax corporation that's here in Helotes, even though we give most of it back through the 380 agreements, and we're unable to meet our obligation to this, what happens then? If we're not able to meet our 325? If we're not able to meet our 325 budget to the city each year?
I don't know the exact answer to that, but my thought in it, Jeff, and that's kind of why we put that language in there, is that as long as we're meeting our obligation, that we'd be protected from any reductions in our sales tax allocations. So I would think if we broke this contract with the city, then I would think that would then open them up to where then they could then redirect our allocation to come up with that shortfall.
Okay.
I would imagine that's what they would do as a business. Of course, if we get a situation like that where our major tax contributors not there for EDC, then there's probably other problems that we're going to feel around the city.
Right, and I'm not saying that they're going to leave or that the city's going to come after it, because the way y'all got it worded, it looks like that they won't come for the reallocation of it.
Right.
But I'm just thinking if for something happens and the economy just crashes.
Yeah.
I mean, we already see that everything's getting more expensive and
Yeah.
everything, and I'm not wanting that to happen. I'm praying to God it doesn't happen, but what if the sales tax for the city just falls to nothing?
At that point, I think we evaluate everything. I mean, that's evaluate.
I mean, the city budget's going to be suffering, everybody's
Right,
going to be
yeah, I mean,
suffering.
that reevaluates everything, EDC, the city and everything else. And at that point, we do as a city look at, okay, where does this, you know what I mean? And it's EDC can't support it, but can we even afford an EDC at that point? I mean, if gets down to that
Right.
point, we have to look at everything. I'm going to be very honest, me, devil's advocate on that end, we'd have to look at everything.
Yeah.
As a city, as a whole, on what's best for our citizens and our residents.
Yeah, but that is a reality thought,
I'm not trying to be a pessimist here. I'm just wanting to look at every
It's a reality.
option.
Well, that could be a legislative change too, that changes, it doesn't have to be the economy failing. It could be a legislative change at the state that changes how that tax revenue is received, if that's the right word, here at the city, or calculated maybe is a better term. So that could change legislatively, not because of the economy. So I do too share that thought. It's just saying, how do we support but can we support our budget if we lost particularly some of our larger
I can tell you
contributors?
if the legislation went through the way that it was proposed, I guess it's a year ago
A year
now,
ago.
we could not support our current expenditures at the rate they are. For
Do you
sure.
have a percentage, just roughly how far we're off? Are we not supporting it by 2%, or are we not supporting it by 40%?
It's bad.
Okay, well, okay, that helps.
I've looked at projections. We are able to calculate, with relative accuracy, right, with what they generate and what effect that would have on, they recalculate the way sales tax is based on. And what we're talking about is point of destination
yeah.
and delivery versus point of sale. It would require us to cut back everything. We could afford to stay, depending what happens to the city, the EDC could stay functioning. We could cover our overhead and basic expenditures. We wouldn't have extra money. We couldn't cover this agreement. We couldn't cover additional incentives and all that. It would have to slash everything.
That's what I'm saying, at that point, you reevaluate as a city.
Right.
Where those sales tax should go.
Yeah, 'cause, we wouldn't be the only ones affected dramatically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a scary law, and I don't think it was, or proposed legislation, I don't know if it was fully thought out. I'm sure there was some certain non-stick and brick type companies that were probably in favor of it. But from what I do know of that legislation when it was proposed, that it had such a negative effect overall that's why it did not go through. I think the lobbying was done very well.
Houston was a very big component of that.
Yeah.
Having a big city
Yeah,
against it.
Yeah.
very surprising.
Yeah, Yeah, but I wonder how many things are purchased online that come out of Houston that are delivered to somewhere else, you know? I'm sure anything, I think that's a big manufacturing type of city would be severely hurt.
Ask a question?
Sure.
You good?
I'm good.
Cool.
Thanks, Ed.
This is 13 years we're showing payment
Yes.
at 325 per year, which comes out to 4.225, right?
It should actually be 12 years at 325.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, because 2022 is actually already
Right.
out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just checking.
yeah.
That was my only question.
Good question. That's always a good check, man.
So I guess we still need a,
Can we talk to the point real quick that this is gonna go to 2035? It's so our obligation of the 325 goes to 2035. That's
technically 2034.
2034, and then the city's contractual obligation by signing it would be that our sales tax portion is not affected until
So that-
that date as well.
Correct.
Am
Right.
I understanding that correctly?
You are correct. Yeah, so that's kind of in the agreement would be that says that our sales tax allocation, as long as we're meeting our obligation of this amount, our sales tax allocation will not change. Now, again, if we don't meet our obligation, then I think we'd be in violation that they then probably could do that redirection at any amount that they want.
I have another scenario here. Say the city comes into a windfall and they decide that, hey, you know what? We got extra $4 million next year. We're going to pay this off completely. Are we still giving them 325 through 2035?
Yeah, you know, that really hasn't been discussed, Jeff. I would think the answer is yes, just because I think, you know, it's kind of our obligation is made, it's related to that certificate of obligation, but the way that we're gonna have this to where we're paying a certain amount for a certain amount of time, I don't think now, I would think that we would have the possibility, because if the city came into a windfall, it would probably be through sales tax and not property tax.
Right.
And so then it would kind of be our windfall too. So I do think that, and this is a good thing, Glenn, to make sure that we do have the ability to prepay this without penalty. So that's kind of, my thought is if the city has the ability to prepay their debt, then we should be able to prepay our debt to them.
I just don't want, you know, if we're looking at spending this amount, I think the city would be foolish to terminate this early, because then, and if they would lose our money.
Right.
I mean, is it worded that way? I mean, if the city was to, or,
It could be worded that way, where it's like, even if we pay off the debt early, we're not gonna you know what I mean? We're not gonna terminate this because we've paid that debt off. Does that, you know what I mean?
yes,
So,
that,
yeah.
what
So
I'm thinking is if they paid it off in 4 years or 5 years, then the city says, well, we don't need your money anymore. We're gonna look at renegotiating the sales tax allocation.
And see, that would kind of change, like he said, it would be the sales tax thing. So that would kind of change in a way, because what we'll do is we're trying to keep the property tax low for citizens is the big key to everything.
Correct.
Is to be able to still increase our services to the citizens without increasing property tax. So, and I can't speak for my council, you know, in front of, but I would think that the way that my council does think is that it would be a win-win to still be able to pay it off and still have that 325 to continue and to leave property taxes low, but to continue to provide extra services. You know?
And if the city did pay it off early, we would still be legally okay, because
I'm gonna ask that question.
to the attorney.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I wouldn't want the city to pay it off early and then
right.
we're still giving them 325, but it's not towards stuff that was for the,
What it's meant for.
right.
Right.
I just, I,
I think at that point, the city would have to make sure that because it's for both, yeah, because we have it saying it's for the debt service and for the public safety, that we allocate it to public safety. You know what I mean? We're not allocating it to anything else, but it'd have to be allocated to the
and
veteran.
public safety is 100% okay for the EDC to cover.
I do not believe so.
Well, not 100% of
No, I
the,
mean, we can claim that as economic development, paying for public safety. Or not? Do we have a legal opinion on that?
Do not.
Pretty gray.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just don't want the EDC to wind up doing something wrong legally. I'm not opposed to doing this. I just want to make sure that we have everything crossed and dotted and.
Yeah.
The legal opinion we have currently is that we can use our funds to cover the 2015 certificate of obligation.
Right. So what we may have to just say, we require the city not to pay it off early, which I think there's some prepayment penalties that are
There are.
there.
Yes.
But I think that's part of what we put into this contract. So the steps that I see us going through with this, Jeff, is like, if we get approval today, really what we're approving is saying, hey, we're gonna give the city $325,000 over the next 12 years. That's kind of that, what we're approving today, to bring that to council with the stipulations that we put onto this. But there's still the whole process of going through and actually drafting up the contract, the agreement.
And letting legal look at that.
And the city has to approve this anyway, because they may.
Yes.
At council meeting, they may say, no, we don't want it. And
Yes, that is very possible. Yeah, because there's, the first time they're gonna be seeing it, unless they're watching this tonight, or watching the recording later, will be on the 28th. So there's really, other than a couple of council people that, of course, would be below quorum, they don't know exactly what the bullet points of this deal points are of this agreement.
But our approval tonight is just for us to move forward with the discussions of the city. This is not actually approving the contract as of tonight.
no.
Correct. That is correct. There won't be approval. It will be just moving forward with bringing this proposal to the city to see if there's council approval of it, but then there will have to be the actual final contract will.
Well, what I would recommend, because the way it's written, actually, it's written that you're giving Glenn the authority to move forward with all the necessary steps to implement the agreement. So what I would say is whatever, when you go into motion, is to motion that you want the contract to come back to be viewed by the board
Okay.
prior to implementation. Because that's not how the actual caption is written.
But we can amend.
Yeah, you want to amend your motion
Yeah.
to that,
So we can have Glenn still move forward with everything, but the final contract would
and then bring the final.
would be come
contract
back to the
Yes.
board for approval.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that would be the.
That's perfect.
I would just be in favor of, or direction, I guess, when drafting this, that, and it was discussed already, but the fact that we continue the obligation for the 12 years and keep the contract, whether the city pays off the debt or not, we find a way to continue this obligation for the 12 years. And so the city holds up their end of the contract as well. Point being, I don't want to go through this whole discussion and dance again in 2 to 3 years. I would rather us reassess our situation maybe in 10 to 12 years, as is indicated here in the contract. So that's what I would be looking for, is that.
Yeah, and this is all good direction for Glenn, because this is, as Marianne pointed out, the motion is for the interim director to take all necessary steps to implement the agreement. So, but again, we can amend the motion or add a stipulation to the motion that the final agreement will have to come before the board for approval.
I mean, y'all can do it with a resolution so that it's also on file, you know what I mean, with the resolution, and that agreement's part of that resolution.
And this still requires us to do a public notice, 60 days before you can make an expenditure. And the way we're going to present it tonight is tying it into the budget. So it'll kind of cover all that and go into effect October 1.
Because it'll become a line item in the budget.
Yes, sir. So we'll need a motion and a,
So we need to make a motion. Do we have a motion on the floor currently, or do we need?
No.
Okay, I make a motion that we have Glenn proceed with all the necessary stuff to implement this agreement with the city, with the stipulation that it comes back to the board for the final approval of the signed contract.
I would say to negotiate the agreement instead of implement.
For him to negotiate everything and bring back to the city the final, or bring back to us, the board, a final contract for approval.
Okay. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. All right, so now, just like Glenn alluded to, the last item is presentation discussion on a proposed fiscal year 22 to 23 HEDC operating budget submitted by the HEDC Finance Committee.
Looks expensive.
For formality, can we get a motion in a second to discuss?
I'll motion that we discuss the 22 to 23 proposed budget.
Second.
All right, motion in a second. And this will actually be, I guess, to clarify, hold on, I want to go back to the.
Sorry
actual-
for all those people looking online.
I know.
It is really.
Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah, so this is presentation and discussion, so, we're actually not gonna have action on adoption of this today?
No.
Okay, bring it.
No, this is really our first step. The Finance Committee, like John mentioned earlier, had a chance to sit down, look at our current budget, year-to-date and expected year end. And then kind of based off the strategic work plan that was done in the work session, think about items, new items to add in to the budget to accomplish the goals. So initially, I was just really going to go down through the list and highlight either the new items and or the items that are significantly higher. If there's any question about anything, feel free to ask. So looking at the proposed 2023 year, the only reason sales tax currently is higher at 3.53 million is that is including the BMC 380 agreement sales tax. Just so we know, both as a revenue and as an expense right now, what we're looking at. I know you can, our anticipated year end for this current fiscal year for sales tax net is 1.7 million.
Okay.
The Finance Committee felt pretty strong, I think, that they didn't want to go in next year with an increase. They felt with the current market conditions, the interest rates, the potential recession, that we should come down. And I'm trying to remember what we did,
We had it at 3.65 before to start, so we came down.
Right.
1,000.
So that puts us at a net of 1.53 million in sales tax. So that's what we officially have to work with in 2023.
So just to be clear, Glenn, so that's taking the sales tax number up on top there, 3.53 as a revenue, but then at the bottom, towards the bottom of the budget, 380 agreement reimbursements, that 2 million then comes out of that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I like how you added it back in here. It makes it way more transparent and it's easier to see. I like that.
Same.
It definitely does. And I know there's definitely some concern with accurately reporting, I think, the 380 agreement. And we have had, not issues with it, but this last year, when we approved the budget, we had no idea they were going to go through a merger and it was going to be a significant impact to their revenue stream as it was. They almost tripled the volume of business that they do. But now we have several baseline months. We're going to have a couple more before we end up approving this budget. So I feel confident we'll be relatively accurate, both on the sales and the expense. But keep in mind, if there is a drop in their sales, there's a drop in the expense.
Right.
It correlates. And so if there's an increase in sales, there'll be an increase in
And
expenditure.
if there's an increase, Glenn, at that point, we'll have to bring y'all back with a budget amendment.
Correct.
Because you cannot spend more than what you've approved in your budget. So having that as an expense, he will have to come back in September of next year. And only if there's an increase in that expense, not if there's a decrease.
Okay. So if they actually do better business,
Correct.
then it's a decrease in our budget, but,
That has to go back to the city council for budget.
no, I'm sorry, it's an increase in an expense.
Yeah.
They do better.
And then it does have to go.
And we
to
hope that
city
happens.
council.
That what?
And then it does, you said it does have to go to city council as a budget amendment. Okay.
Yes, sir. So there has to be enough time you'd probably have to do it sometime in August or have a special meeting, just so that there's enough time it goes to council.
Agree.
Sure.
Right now, we're not showing any increase on mixed beverage sales. It's really fluctuated lately. And then interest, it's looking better and better, so I'm hoping that line item might be able to go up. But it's pretty modest, $7,000, right? The transfer in and out, that is it, and I tried to highlight in, that is a transfer in, $511,000, 985. That is to balance the budget. So it's a transfer in, right now, from reserves into our current fiscal year operating budget to cover all expenditures. That can be adjusted. So really the bigger line items that have kind of changed on here, one of them is the tenant improvement grant. It was as compared to the projected year end at 60,000, we put it 150. That's the same amount that we initially add in the start of 2022. We do have, again, transferring over the conceptual is the same as what we planned in 2022 at 30,000. Marketing, 5,000 bump, 2022, we budgeted 75. We're likely not going to spend that this year, but we have planned right now for 23 at 80,000. The website maintenance, that one is going up a little bit, and it's likely could be due with, we'll see on the website, modifications, current update, hosting. I know our hosting contract is 6,000 a year. So that's the majority, half of that line item. Part of our discussion too with the debt service payment to the city was also discussing the managed services agreement and the sponsorship of city events. And right now we've discussed putting that at 30,000 with some of the changes that have happened both administratively and kind of with the organization. Debt service stays the same. We have a 2007 and part of a 2015 debt service ourselves. That's the anticipated debt service payment based on the schedule. Land acquisition, again, we initially had budgeted 285. We just put in a retainer amount of 250 to continue looking for properties the EDC could buy. The business improvement grant, that's actually the e-commerce grant program. I would like to continue offering that out there. I know it hasn't, we've had quite a few applications. One of them just finalized. I still need a couple documents before I can remit payment. And we have 2 that are currently in the works and several that are pending. I think we've had 12 applicants so far. They don't all meet the qualifications. I can say that. We've had a couple that haven't and had to be denied. And then we had recently one business that was approved that moved out of Helotes to Alamo Ranch. So very fortunate we didn't expend those funds.
Yeah.
To be quite honest. I think moving forward, I'm going to put, when we reauthorize these programs, we're going to put a stipulation that they need to make a commitment to stay here, otherwise face repayment of the grant.
2 or 3 years or something.
Depending on the amount, minimum a year, and if it's significant, then yes. So a clawback. Our office rental is really just going up nominally, $100 a month. So it's not a big impact, and that was negotiated 2 years ago. So that, I think we're at the last year, I believe, of that contract. So we'll have to go back and renegotiate next year. And then visitor center, the finance committee suggested putting money back into that for this next year to try to look and put in 50,000 as a placeholder. Obviously, the marketing, we're recommending keeping the same for the city event at 50,000. Putting kind of a placeholder in for the capital improvements. That was the Clomar for the bridge. We still have not expended that. I don't know if that's going to happen in the next month or two. So right now, I'm planning to put it in for next year.
No, if
Yeah,
you haven't spent anything on it yet, then that means they haven't done any work on it, because, yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't plan on it getting all done within the next 2 months.
And then the arts grant, the arts grant committee will be meeting, I think it's next week. So look at my calendar. We had 2 applications, but 5 overall projects. One, the artist submitted 4 different sculptures. So they will be meeting to review and decide if and which ones to move forward with. But I have definitely some ideas of how we can improve this from some of the artists that we've talked to, and then some of the other art organizations, the nonprofits, on how maybe to get a better response next year. And one of the art nonprofits, something like the Hill Country Art Coalition, if we start this early and we pick the projects we want to move forward with, right now we have a 1-to-1 match, they will do fundraising to provide that match for the artist. So then the artist is not out any money, if that makes sense. The way we currently structured it, if the sculpture is $10,000, the artist has to pay $5,000 and we pay $5,000, which can be a lot of money for a starving artist. And so I have actually even reached out to some other cities that offered variations of these art programs. There's even a couple where the city will lease the art. So they go through the same process, they pick the pieces, but they don't pay 100% for the piece. It's not their permanent piece. They will lease it for a specified amount of time. Typically it's a year, and they will have it on display. And then you put a QR code for the option of someone that's viewing it to buy it, or then it goes back to the artist. And then you just swap out the art installations. It's kind of clever. It's a good use of funds in a way.
Could you also have like a local business sponsor the artist's portion of it and have a small placard there that says sponsored by?
That's originally how our current program
Okay.
was set up. The intent was that a business would provide that match. And one of the artists is proposing putting it in city right of way, and he said, well, will the city match it? We got it. You know, I mean, we haven't approached that yet. Right now, he's looking at having to obviously provide that himself. And the big one on here, right? The new business development incentive, $400,000. That one is specifically geared towards one of our goals in the strategic plan. We identified industries that we wanted to attract to Helotes, be entertainment, be dine-in restaurant, distillery, brewery, etc. Best way to do that is to have a targeted incentive for those. I think we should create something that gives a lot of different options, where they could look at some potential grant up front, could look at reimbursement of water impact fees, city permitting fees, but we could tailor it to each type of business. So it's different than a tenant improvement grant. It would be honestly substantially more money for the user depending on number of jobs, the sales tax. I mean, it's my recommendation, and I know the finance committee supported including it in this presentation tonight. And then the last two at the end was the $2 million for the 380 agreement reimbursement, and then the 325 that we're talking about to transfer to the city to cover the 2015 certificate of obligation. So that rounds us out with the transfer in of a zero budget.
So revenues matches expenses. So just again, Glenn, you know, obviously when you look at the numbers in the last column, the revenue and total expenses compared to the previous years, it kind of freaks you out at first. But it's just because that $2 million not in there. So if you actually took out that $2 million, both are our revenue and our expense, it actually drops the budget down to about 2 million total.
Right.
Okay,
Where
which
we
isn't
were-
that big of an increase over, what we actually have spent to date.
Correct.
The other parts that I see in it, is from the expense standpoint. So the next item I'm going to look at is on a transfers in and out. So like Glenn mentioned, for this year, in order to balance the budget, he's having to take $511,985 out of reserves, to actually put it as a revenue to get us back to balance. And in 2021-22, it was only 181,000 that needed to be done to balance that. So you got a difference of about, $300,000 or so just for simple math. But again, we've got a big line item under this new business development incentive that, there's a big question whether or not we'll actually have the opportunity to expenditure that, just because it's got to be project specific, which we don't even know if the projects, which projects those are. So those are the big items I know that jumped out to me. And I can just going through and looking at some of the other items and what we spent year to date actual and what we budgeted in 2021. A lot of these we just did not get to the expenditures that we thought, which obviously has afforded us to build up a pretty good reserves. What does our actual reserve sit at right now?
So,
I was gonna say, with with what we're anticipated at the year end, yeah, it's gonna be close to $3 million, 2.9.
at the last year, actually on the actual, I was telling Glenn, there's actually an expense that isn't listed, which is the grants. So when the report was ran, it was an inactive account because we're not doing grants this year. So there's 450 missing on actuals of 21. So your expenses at 555, it's like 1,000,009 is what that is.
Gotcha.
So that changes your
Okay.
the total amount that went into reserves. So at end of last year, you had, as of right now, because you count your reserves at the end of each fiscal year, so
Right.
for that year. So your reserves are 2,087,000. The anticipated by the end of this year would be 2.9. And then if you, even with the minus of the 511, it'll bring it down to 2.4 at the end of fiscal year 23.
Okay. Good.
Joel, motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I didn't notice to me. Couple things that I wanted to note. I'm still not concerned, but would just like to look at the interest that we're earning on our reserve that we have. We're estimating, well, that's year to date. So last year it was $1,600. And I know we had talked about in previous meetings, looking at other investment opportunities that we may have. Is the city doing that as well?
We are doing that. We're looking at different investments. You have
Okay.
to remember, when it's sales tax, public money, you can only invest in certain
Right.
things.
Right.
So we're looking at the best, what's out there, what we can invest in, to be able to increase that.
So our thought is going to be to piggyback on what y'all are doing with that.
1,600 seems pretty low for 2.9 million, 2.8
Yeah, it does,
million.
doesn't it? Yeah. So that would be my first thing. The other item, I was really in favor of the money that we set aside for the strategic, very specific grant program, if we're going to call it that, for these industries, for these businesses that we really want to see here in the city. I think from direction that we've received from council, that, that is one of the things that we should be focusing on, is bringing in those businesses that bring people to Helotes. And we've kind of already talked about those and highlighted those items that Glenn mentioned: sit-down restaurant, brewery, different entertainment things where people can sit, enjoy, and attract them to the city. So I'm really in favor of that. I hope that there will be interest in it if we make it something that would draw those type of businesses or those people to look this way, because I think we have the people that want to do that, as far as customer base that would be looking to utilize those. So I hope we can really support that, and that's seen as favorable from everyone. The only other item that we had talked about that I recall from our meeting was looking at doing some more of our own marketing as far as social media. So I don't know if we're gonna put that as part of our marketing budget, or we had talked about seeing as part of, I know the city does that for us now. They have someone who does that, so if that's part of that expense to them, how we can work with them to try to increase, especially with all the money we're spending on website and YOLO and those type of things. I follow all the city stuff and all the EDC stuff. It'd be nice to see more of that, especially if we have a new logo, I'd like to see more just promotion of things we have going on here. Restaurants to eat at, kind of what YOLO does, right? As far as, hey, here's the brisket at B Daddy's, here's, different restaurants and those type of things that maybe people don't see that would draw them here. So, if we're doing that as part of marketing, that's what I'm in favor of. If that's part of our city agreement, then I'd like to kind of have a discussion there with them if we can about what we can do differently.
Combination of both.
Yeah,
And
maybe
whatever,
so.
yeah, direction, I encourage like even the ads on Facebook, if we're promoting B Daddies or whoever it is, or Casa Pasta, whoever, actually even doing an ad to promote, hey, here's a list of restaurants, or go to the new Visit Helotes to see all the different places and plan your visit type of thing, and doing an ad through the social media. And right now we only have Shop Helotes Facebook. I recommend us EDC to do Instagram also. That's a big thing. People are wanting just pictures and tags and so forth like that. So those are other things to have its own entity, because we get a lot of followers through city's Instagram, but to be able to promote that just with the EDC would be great.
Would that Instagram fall under a management services agreement, or would that be on us?
No, that would fall under management services.
I never thought I would say this, but I think you'll look at doing like TikTok too.
Only if you do the first one.
If that's something that, the direction, it gets cities in trouble, but EDCs maybe a little bit your promoting stuff,
Yeah, well, it's fun we want. I like it. My daughter has one of those lights, by the way, that, makes
everybody look good.
yeah, has a nice filter on it.
That's all I have.
Yeah, there's definitely any specific items you got on there?
No.
Okay. I also, actually, I want to commend Glenn on something that he has spent zero on office supplies to year to date. I don't know how you
I
do
just
that.
I just turned in some.
Well, you've been staying under budget by like,
Yeah.
1,000%, so I do gotta give you hats off on
It's
that.
because he spends his own money.
I know. It's because the reimbursement process is so onerous.
Yes.
It was. Sorry.
So keep up the good work on keeping that budget line item well under. I don't have
We're
any.
using paper. I just
Yeah.
some bleach. and-
Well, yeah, and actually now we even use less paper than before,
Absolutely.
by the iPads. John?
I got nothing, I'm good.
Okay. Melissa?
Good.
Eric? Jeff?
I would almost be in favor of the new business development, raising that and lowering some other things. That's, that's how we're gonna get people here. We need, it's the more businesses we can get here that sit-down restaurants, breweries, that type of stuff, that's going to it's gonna help the city, because it's gonna get more people visiting the city. It's going to boost sales tax revenue for both, obviously. If it's alcohol, it's gonna affect the mixed drink one. I would almost be in favor of doing that and, cutting some of the other, I won't say touchy-feely maybe, but the
Understand.
The other grants that are.
But how much?
Another way to even give a little more impact when we're looking at an incentive, because that anticipated 400,000 we're talking about cash upfront to offset some of the expenses. If we do an incentive for a distillery, we could roll in sales tax rebates over a number of years, like what we have with BMC. So there's
Right.
ways to give them more money over a longer period of time.
And also, if this thing goes through the city, we'll have sewer rebates that we would be able to give back.
Correct.
Now, is that only pertain, can we only give that money back to stuff that's along that line?
Yes.
Well, let me put it this way, we only will collect money off of what's in front of that line. So, once we have the money, and we don't actually have it as a revenue here because it's such an unknown.
Right.
But once we actually have that money, it does not have to go, it actually, it's in our bank account. So at that point, we can use it as an incentive on a project anywhere, at that point. If we wanted to waive, and I have to check into this, Jeff, to see if we have the ability to just
Waive
waive
that
it.
fee?
Waive that reimbursement fee, but I think if we really wanted to do that incentive or use it as an incentive, it'd be like, we'll reimburse you that fee. Like, you have to pay it to SAWS, and it has to come back through, but then we'll give it right back.
Once you get your CFO, then we'll reimburse
Right,
or something like
exactly.
that.
So I think we could do something like that.
And,
It's revenue.
and I really think we need to target certain clientele, certain areas, so that we are building the city the way that we want to build it, if that makes sense.
We can absolutely do that.
I think that certain things would be great to have in the city, and some things would not be. But
What's the percentage amount, Glenn, that items can be adjusted in this budget, like a specific line item? So let's say that instead of 400, it ends up, the project we win at the end of the year, we have to spend 450. Do we have to go to council to get that approved?
Yeah, any expenditure that goes over,
The bottom line.
typically it's the bottom line,
The
so it's
bottom
anything under contractual services. Correct?
Actually, no.
Or you
So,
do-
so if you do the whole thing and you have $4 million, okay? If you're going over that $4 million in expenses, then
Okay.
it becomes a budget amendment. If not, you can do what you call interdepartmental amendments.
So we can adjust line items.
Exactly.
So the
exactly.
the projected for this year, we're showing 943 is what you're projecting that we're going to be in surplus this year under. So if I'm looking at that right,
Yes.
Yes,
Right,
then we have the ability to move 943 around.
right.
but we just can't go over that $4 million
Can't go
in
over that-
expenditures.
You can't go over the total, correct?
Right.
Okay. So if we did have several businesses come in and we wanted to bump that to 500 or 600, we could do it as long as we stayed under the total number overall.
Yeah, but
If, for example, we didn't do land purchase.
Right.
Yeah.
Then that would free up 250 right there.
right.
Or we make a budget adjustment that goes through council.
Right, or if we made,
Worst case scenario, to me, there's a way to do it.
Well, I think, and you can obviously see it in our numbers. We've been a pretty fiscally conservative board over the past couple of years, which has been good because it's given us this ability to do the reserve. And I would tell you, without the reserve, we might not be in a situation where we could have where we're helping or we're participating with the city and the public safety initiative. So I think we're going to continue to be fiscally conservative to a certain extent. And focus on trying to do those things just like you're talking about, Jeff. Let's go target some businesses.
I mean, we did 20,000 tonight on a grant and that was, for the T. And if we can do stuff, not that 20,000 is not a lot of money, but if we are able to do larger grants to bring in bigger sit down, yes, there's projected, 700,000 they're going to spend. If you bring in a sit down restaurant, you're looking at 3 times that.
Right. Yeah, and we had a good discussion the other day, especially on vacant property, that 380 agreement, although sometimes we look at it, of how much money we're paying out to BMC, but also you look at it, what they're bringing in, where if they weren't there without that 380 agreement, that might not be coming in at all.
Right.
So I think we got to look at that same as a tool because it doesn't really cost you money out of your budget. You're getting now, revenue off of something that was getting zero before, and maybe you're not getting that full amount, but
The better they do, the better we do.
Right. So, it's been successful with BMC and, obviously we're very thankful. I know us as citizens of Helotes that, you know, that are here and able to be a big supporter of our city.
And like you said, you wanted to, like, it's all under contractual, so that 400, but you don't spend that much on grants, or you don't spend that much on the arts grants or something, then it's all right there within that same commodity.
So anything that's in that contractual
Right,
services,
right.
if we don't spend that, we can move it to a different
Move it
line
to the other
item
line
in the
item,
contractual
in the contractual,
services,
yes.
Yeah.
without having to go to city council.
Council, correct.
Okay. I'm just trying to think ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great thought. You know, that's something as far as like, if we had another big user come in that maybe they're in ETJ, we could also use that money as an incentive and possibly get them to voluntary annex in, you know, and say, look, we can work a 380 out and help you out with something that may be associated with that business. And then, but as part of it, they have to annex in, you know, so we can make sure we get the sales tax. So I think we got a lot of flexibility. Finance committee did a great job, I think, putting this together. Really good. I think it's well thought out. And following our strategic plan, we still do have the visitor center in there, that we didn't spend anything on the budget last year that we've still got, that we've got back in the budget this year because it is part of our strategic plan. Need to put some thought into that as well.
Glenn, did you speak on, I know I stepped out for a minute, did you speak on the percentage, the line item percentage allowances based on the overall revenue from the state
Oh,
as a reason to why we're showing? Okay. Will you
don't
speak on that
actually
real
raise
quick?
that, but yeah, one of the other things that we are starting to get a little closer on, the state regulation on economic development organizations, you cannot spend more than 10% of your budgeted revenues in marketing. But marketing for us is not just the line item in marketing. It's website development, it's event promotion. We've even run a few grants through marketing because it doesn't have the same process. We can do it quicker. So yeah, right now, I think in this projected budget, we're 148,000, I believe, that could be considered marketing. And so if we didn't project, so my concern is that if we're not projecting all of our revenue, we could actually be in violation of the state mandate. And then we're gonna have to cut back on some of those things that we may want to do.
So that's why we want to put the BMC full revenue amount in there and then show them as an expense at the bottom instead of just.
It is our
added.
revenue.
Correct.
Yeah,
It is an incentive.
we just have to pay it back.
Right.
Correct.
So, yeah, good thought on that, because otherwise that number goes way down, and so your marketing would go down way with it.
That's correct.
It's, I agree with you in that what is truly marketing, sometimes is more of just community support.
Mm-hmm.
Can you make a line item that's community support, where things like this fun run fall into?
I mean, I suppose you could. Right now, we take those out of our literal marketing budget.
Right. I guess if we had something like, let's say, what is our obligation to market days?
It's part of the 50,000 that we do to city events.
Right, so, I mean, could we literally have a line item that said, that community support or something that didn't sound marketing-esque? Because, I mean, I know it's promoting business, but we're not like marketing ourselves.
We're not
you know?
marketing EDC.
No.
We're marketing.
You do, even with supporting Marketplace and the parades, the EDC is getting exposure. They're getting the logo on a website. That is marketing. When we do Carnival.
Branding.
That is, same field in the College of
Same
Business.
We can open,
Marketing business development.
Honestly, and what a lot of, EDCs do, if specific expenditures don't fall under a statutorily authorized use, then it's marketing. Because you can do anything you want in marketing. You just can't exceed 10% of your budgeted revenues.
I mean, right now, we're fine. It's just more or less bringing that to everyone's attention that
We're right there.
we want to make sure that we're keeping
Compliance.
in compliance, and one of the ways to do that is by showing our actual true numbers, how they work out here.
And I'll add the distinction that we've talked with the finance director, and this will not change our CAFR, so our audit. Our audit will show our net revenue.
So your
'cause
budget
that's
does-
required
Yeah,
by
that is
law.
required. So when you do an audit, when it comes to you, you're gonna see something different than the budget when it comes to your revenues and your expenses. Because they actually net it out. That is what the audit requirements with Gatsby 34 requires. You net it out because it's an obligation that the city or EDC cannot spend. So it automatically nets out.
So again, this wasn't an action for adoption, so it was just for discussion, presentation. So does anybody have further discussion on it? All right, so we'll go ahead and close that item if I'm correct.
FYI, this will go to council on the 11th. We had a work session, but we didn't present it because it hadn't been presented to y'all yet. So then it'll go to council the first time on the 11th, because by law, you have to present your public the actual budget, the proposed budget. So if there's any changes, any things that we're going to do that you want to give direction, or the finance committee wants to give direction to Glenn, and needs to get that done so that that is, your proposed budget is presented to the public on August 11th at the city council meeting.
And I've actually got to post it. I'm gonna have to do the public notice at the end of July that will advertise the public hearings both for the EDC and for city council. And then a draft of the proposed budget as seen here, since there hasn't been any discussion of truly amending the dollar amounts, will be on the website for citizens to view.
When is the city scheduled to take action on our proposal?
They will not approve it until September 22nd.
On the proposal or on the budget?
Our proposal
Oh, for this, yeah, for our,
for our 325 opposed.
325, that's July 28th.
Well, we're hoping
Right.
to try to get it in.
At least
this year.
at least direction to see if they
Right.
agree to the terms, and then we're gonna have to draft the agreements. It's likely gonna take 3 agreements to do this one.
But I mean, are we gonna, that's gonna affect our budget?
well, we've got it in there.
We have it.
Absolutely.
We have it in there, but I mean, if
If it comes
they
out.
shoot it down and say no, then,
So you can still amend the proposed
Yes.
budget until the day of adoption?
Yes.
Between both the board and the council?
okay.
So that's what happens. So what's proposed sometimes doesn't, because you get public input, or you get your council or your board to comment and to give direction to, like.
But the city won't be approving it on the 11th?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the EDC has up until September 21st to make changes to the budget. That's when we have to approve the final version.
Right.
And
It
city
goes to
council.
council on
The-
the next.
The other thing the harder thing that's gonna be harder to predict on this, Jeff, is if for the 325 proposal is not approved by city council, and then instead a redirection goes into November election without knowing the results, that's something that, yeah, but that definitely would affect our top line up there.
Yes.
That we'd have to figure it out when we got to it, because our revenues would go down. All right, so unless we have any further discussion, we come to the best part of the agenda. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn. It is 9:15.
Good work, folks.
Yeah.